Now in this video, we are going to learn about functions in R. So what is function? So the function is exactly the same concept as any other language. It's like a black box. So you give input and based on the function it actually try to solve, it would give you the output. Like you have a function called mean, and what it does, whatever it gets as input, it gives you output. So similarly in R we have actually a function called mean, and if you give the input as 1, 5, 6, 7 and you are combining all of them by combine function by C, so you would get the output as 4.75. Now R has lot of inbuilt function. They are numeric function, statistical function, character function, and lot of other function as well. But before we actually deep dive into those function, let's understand what is the structure of a function. Suppose you have a function like mean, and mean can actually take lot of arguments. One of the arguments is actually the value. So you can think in that way. So function has a body where you have written all those things. So suppose there is another function. So I am trying to create a function which is about add. So if you pass two argument x and y, then I will add them and return the add value. Now you can, by default you can set some value. So if you set only x comma y, then there is no default value. But if you say x comma y equal to 1, then by default you are saying that even if you don't pass anything in y, suppose you pass only 2 in this function, then it would be giving you 2 plus 1 equal to 3. So we'll be learning all those things, how to write a function on your own. But before we actually learn all those things, we will actually learn about couple of inbuilt function in R which are very popular, and we would be actually using all those function in our subsequent courses. Now lot of function, so probably I would try to tell you maybe 20 to 30 function normally being used, but apart from those 20 to 30 there are a lot of other functions as well which you should actually go back and check on your own. So how to check that? That's why I have given you one example. Suppose I don't know what this mean function does, so you can simply in your R console or in R studio you can simply ask question mark then the function name. So it would actually give you this kind of documentation about that function. Like you can see that the name of the function is mean, and it takes how many argument? It takes a lot of arguments. So first argument is about the value, which is this you can read about it, then stream, then na.rm, and it also gives you what it does, what it expect to do, all those things. Okay, now when I say these arguments for few of the function, you would see there are so many arguments, right? So maybe fifth argument discuss about whether you want to ignore the case or not, whether this is on the fifth position or sixth position. It's very difficult to remember. That's why whenever you are passing any value to a function, you can pass it in two ways, either by position, like you can say first position is for value and second position is for na.rm. But if you don't remember that, you can actually name it. So if you have two argument, suppose in standard deviation, so SD is a function standard deviation, what it does, so you can simply ask in question mark and see what are the different arguments, and then suppose there are in the fifth position there is an argument which you want to change. So instead of the position you can choose by name. So you can say na.rm is equal to false or true, and it would understand. So I will show you the demo, but before I show you that demo, I hope you got a understanding how a function look like and how it works. So let me quickly go to the R Studio first. As I was saying, so suppose you have you want to understand about mean function. So question mark, then mean, then control enter, and what it would do. So right now it's their standard deviation, but you would get the documentation for mean. It's taking some time. Yeah. Yes. So you can see that this is the documentation for arithmetic mean. These are the arguments for that function. Now, if you pass 1, 5, 6, 7 using that combined function, if you try to see the output, you would get the output as 4.75. Similarly, suppose you want to store it first. Suppose instead of directly giving it, you want to store it in some variable called VEC, and then if you give that thing, suppose you want to say mean of VEC, what would happen? You would get a NA value. Why? Because instead of only 1, 5, 6, 7, so instead of NA value, suppose if I pass VEC, then you would get the same result. But if you include a NA value which is not applicable, then it cannot understand what exactly you mean, because ultimately you have to get rid of that to get a value. That's why for standard deviation also we have some argument like na.rm is equal to false. So it says that if you have any na value, first remove it and then you give the result. So that's what I am trying to do. So I can say na.rm is equal to true, and then you would get the same result. See, so first we are including in VEC. You can check the value of VEC as well, but once you try to see the mean of it, you can see. But if you don't pass this argument, it won't work. Similarly, for standard deviation also, it won't work until you give that argument. So that's why we are trying to understand what is the documentation for standard deviation. And as you can see that na.rm is also another argument for it. So if it is false, it won't work, but if it is true, then you are saying that you want to get rid of all those na values and then try to give a standard deviation. Okay. Now we will be discussing about lot of inbuilt function. Now there are couple of numeric function, couple of statistic function, couple of character function. So we will learn one by one. So I have given you the description and what is the meaning of it, but we will actually learn it from RStudio. So first thing is about couple of easier one, like you want to understand the square root, you want to get the ceiling of something, then the next absolute value. If you ask for floor, then the minimum absolute value, exponential of something, log of something, you would get the result here and you can check here. Now let's get into couple of interesting one like append, which can actually add an element to a existing vector. So suppose you already have, you want to store 1 to 5 in X. So you can see X has stored 1 to 5. Now you want to append 7 into X. How do you do that? So you will simply call your append function. Then you will say on top of which data, on top of X you want to add 7. And then again you want to store it in X itself. So now your X would be having 7 as well. Similarly, the next function is identical. So it tests if two objects are identical or not. So you can store first 5 in I, and then you can check whether I and 7 is same or not. Then you would get no, this is not same. Similarly, length, so which returns the length of a vector. Suppose you have stored 1 to 5 in a vector 1, and if you try to see what is the length, then you would get the length as 5. If you want to make it 17, and then you would get the length as 17. Then what ls does, ls actually lists all the objects in a current environment. So suppose you have a package, the package name is stats. So if you remember, So when we are installing a package, that there we had a ggplot2. Similarly, you can actually name any package and you can understand what else is there in that package itself. Okay. Similarly, now suppose in vector1 we have 1 to 17, right? Now if you ask for what is the range of it, so range function gives you the range 1 to 17. Now what a repetition function does, so repetition function says that it would repeat the number x, by n time. So here I am saying repeat 5 10 times, or if I say that repeat 5 by 17, so and the 17 how I am getting the length of vector. That's how we can do it. Now the reverse argument, how it works, so first it stores something. So suppose you are combining 1 3 5 7, but you want it in a reverse way, you want 7 5 3 1, so you can simply call reverse function and then you can see the result as well. So all the time I am pressing control enter. I hope by this time you are familiar with control enter. That's how you are running the each of those lines. Now what a sequence does, so it generate regular sequence from x to y. So this is from x to y. So if I pass 1 to 100 and spaced by n, so you don't want all of them, rather you want separation by 2. So you would get 1 3 5 all those odd. So if you say 2 to 100, then all of them, then you would get all those even value. Okay. Similarly, you can say you want 100 to n, you want 100 to 1, and then you can get it as well. Now next one is about unique. So it remove duplicate entries from the vector. Suppose you have a vector, or simply you are passing this. Suppose you want to create a vector. Suppose vector 2. In vector 2 you want to store all these value, which is nothing but 1 2 3 1 3 5 5 2. So you see that 1 is being repeated, 3 is also being repeated. So you want to understand how many unique values are there. So how this will be useful. So suppose you have customer name, and one customer is visiting your store again and again. So what you can do, you can simply ask for what are the unique values. Then you can understand what is my unique number of customer. Like you can see that there are only 4 customers who are unique. So this is for all those numeric function. Now we will be discussing about statistical function.